So Zayd at the front is not the subject of dhahaba, but instead it's the subject of the greater sentence, what we call mubtada. Okay, and then within dhahaba we would assume a huwa, okay, which is the default pronoun for conjugation number 1. You see that? And it will be done like this. Okay, so it looks like there's 2 words, but in essence the total number of words there are 3. And you can think of it as another example of comprehensiveness at the sentence level, that what appears to be 2 words is actually 3. The total number of meanings is much more, because dhahab has tense, there's past tense in there, there's active voice in there, and then there's stress because Zayd is repeated twice. Okay, so the basic dhahaba Zaydun was reformatted into Zaydun dhahaba, which means that Zayd definitely went. Okay, Zayd, he went. In other words, there's no question that Zayd went. You see that? So there's connotations for the nominal sentence which make it more superior to the verbal one. So like everything else being equal, if you want to say Zayd went, you would say dhahaba Zaydun. But if you're speaking to someone that's sort of confused, and you want to speak with more stress, if you want to speak with more stress, then you would opt for this format. But just know that the Zayd at the front is not the doer. The Zayd at the front is the mubtada, the subject of the nominal, and then within the nominal the predicate happens to be verbal, so the verb would have its own subject, which is a huwa. So it would become a repeated mention of Zayd twice, first explicitly and the other one implicitly. Like that. More on this later. As we see the structures occurring in the Qasas book, you're going to see it a million times. Every time you see it, it can only get more clear. It's not going to get more obscure. Let's continue. So here's the issue in the verbal sentence. Okay, when you have a verb and you have multiple isms, because what we gave you was the minimum for a verbal sentence, there has to be a verb and a doer. Okay, but apart from that, every verb has details. So there's going to be the question what, the question when, and where, and when, why, or how. You see? And if it's a movement, if it's something that like travel, then it can have an origin and it can have a destination. So there's really no limit to the length of a verbal sentence. Okay, so let's keep it basic. If you have an action like hitting and helping, then along with the verb, you can expect there to be 2 isms. One of those 2 isms will be the one doing the verb, and one of those 2 isms will be the one upon whom the verb is being done. Now, you need to have a mechanism. The listener needs to know clearly which of the nouns is the one doing the verb, and which of the nouns is the one upon whom the verb is being done. So every language needs to address this problem, this issue. So Urdu does it by introducing extra words. So not only do you have Zayd and Amr and the particular verb, whatever it is, like hitting, you would have a 4th and a 5th word. The purpose of the ne would be to show that the word immediately preceding it is the subject. So you say Zayd ne Amr ko. So Zayd is the subject and Amr is the object, and the ne is what told us that, and the ko is what told us that. Okay, you switch it around and the meaning changes, but there's flexibility in the sense that you can delay the doer and you can bring forward the object. You can say Amr ko Zayd ne, and the meaning would be clear. The listener would know which of the nouns is the one doing the verb and which of the nouns is the one upon whom the verb is being done. So the verb and the 2 nouns could be formatted in 6 ways, but you have to use 5 words. You can't do it in 3. In English, it's done by the sequence, the order of how the words appear. The word that's at the front is automatically the subject, the verb will be in the middle, and the object will be third. Zayd hit Amr, and if you try to switch it, then it changes the meaning. So how is it done in grammar? In grammar, you don't need extra words, first of all. Okay, so we have a particular method to determine which of the nouns is the one doing the verb and which of the nouns is the one upon whom the verb is being done, and that does not require extra words. And also, it remains flexible, so the verb and the 2 nouns could be formatted in 6 different ways. So here on the screen, you're seeing all 6 of them. The one in the top right corner is the standard format. So daraba means hit. Okay, Zayd is Zayd, the doer, and Amr is the person upon whom the hitting is happening. Okay, now Zayd's particular ending is telling us that it's the doer, so it's the equivalent of the ne. And Amr's particular ending is telling us that the action is happening to Amr, so that's the equivalent of the ko. So once you have that, then you're free to rearrange it in different ways. So if you go to the left side, daraba Amran Zaydun, that essentially means the same thing. Zayd hit Amr, and so do the ones at the bottom. The ones where Zayd is at the front is actually 4 words. Zaydun daraba Amran would be 4 words, because inside daraba you would need to have a huwa that would satisfy the requirement of daraba subject needing to follow it. So Zayd would not be the subject, it would become like an even more impactful and and compound structure. So the rest of them are 3 words. Like the top one, the one that I've circled in green, is 3 words. Fi'al, there's the fi'al there, daraba, there's the fa'il, zayd, and there's the object, amr. And the one beside that is also 3 words. Fi'al, the only difference is that the object's coming first and the subject is delayed. But other than that, same basic meaning there. The one underneath, zaydun daraba amran, is 4 words. Okay, zaydan amran daraba is also 4 words. You see? Okay, so you can pause the video and think about them somewhat. Okay, but essentially they all mean the same thing. They mean zayd hit amr. 6 different ways of saying zayd hit amr. You see? So what's the purpose of having so many? So everything else being equal, is the one that's circled in green that you'd use. If your audience already knows that the hitting happened, and they already know that zayd is the one that is doing the hitting, and the only piece of information that you're giving to them is the fact that amr was the one that was hit, so you would use this one, the one that's circled in yellow. And here's the precise translation for the one that's circled in yellow. It was amr that zayd hit. It was amr that zayd hit. You'd have to use all of those words, okay, in order to convey that meaning, because the hitting part is understood. The listener already knows that the hitting happened. The listener already knows that Zayd did the hitting. It was amr that Zayd hit. Okay, now in English I needed 6 words to do that. In Arabic we did it with the same 3 without introducing any new words. So you see, that's an example of comprehensiveness of the Arabic language at the sentence level. Unless it's like Yoda, for example. Yoda would say amr Zayd hit, and that's how he would speak. But you see, his reformatting of the sentence is meaningless because he does that everywhere. Reverse grammar. Yoda, Star Wars. Okay. So otherwise, like, it's not, people don't speak like that. Like, you know, the noun at the front automatically is the subject in English, and the verb is in the middle, and the noun at the end is automatically the object. SVO, subject, verb, object. Okay, so what do we have so far? We have every language needs to solve this problem. Which of the nouns is the one doing the verb, and which of the nouns is the one upon whom the verb is being done. Some languages do it with extra words like Urdu, a ne and a ko, which allows for flexibility. Since we have the ne and we have the ko, we can arrange the verb and the 2 nouns in 6 different ways. Other languages don't need extra words, so it's good. It's comprehensive in the sense that you only need 3 words, but then it's rigid and it's not flexible. Arabic is the most superior method because Arabic does not use extra words, and also we can format it in 6 different ways. And the benefit of having so many ways of formatting it is to be able to stress and to be able to create precision between our speech and the requirement of the situation. So let's continue. So the issue in the verbal sentence is that sequence does not determine grammar, and the solution to it is the grammatical states, the entire process that was likened to human emotions and facial expressions. And we're going to talk more about that in week 3, inshallah. And it's by giving the last letters of the ism distinct voweling. So when you see the dhammas at the end of Zayd, you know Zayd is the one doing the verb. And when you see the fatha at the end of Amr, you know Amr is the one upon whom the verb is being done. Now it doesn't matter which one's first and which one's second. In the nominal sentence, the issue is one of a lack of is. So if you have a 2-word sentence, then it's pretty clear which noun is the subject, mubtada, and which noun is the khabar, because the only thing you need to do is distinguish it from a phrase. And that's easy because phrases need to correspond, you see. And in al-kitabu jadidun, the word jadid doesn't have an al, so that's sufficient in distinguishing it from a phrase. So what you would do is you would just drop the is in between, and you would say the book is new, you see. So it's these 2 structures that you the one on the right side is the phrase level one, and that means the new book. The one on the left side is the sentence, the one we're dealing with, al-kitabu jadidun, and the difference between the 2 is clear. Okay, but when the sentence becomes larger, then now there's an issue, because if it's 10 words, would the division be 5 and 5? Like the 5 words at the front together connect and form the mubtada, and the 5 words at the end connect together and form the khabar? Not necessarily. It could be 1 and 9. It could be 1 word on its own as the mubtada, and 9 words together connecting and forming the predicate. So how do we tell from where to where is the subject and where to where is the predicate? Okay, now again, in the verbal sentence, the issue was that of distinguishing which of the nouns is the one doing the verb and which of the nouns is the one upon whom the verb is being done. Here it's a different problem. Here we're dealing with a large sentence, and we have no is, and we have to divide the 2 halves of the sentence. So from where to where? Over there it was which. Over here is from where to where is the subject, and where to where is the predicate. And this time when I say subject, I mean mubtada. I don't mean doer of a verb. I mean mubtada. And when I say predicate, I mean khabar. So the mubtada and the khabar, the division needs to be clear. Okay, so the problem is the lack of is. So how is this solved? So let me give you a very long sentence. For example, in English, I would say the ancient book written in 2500 BC by Sun Tzu is available in the bookstores. So everything prior to the is, which was a lot of words, like 8 or 9 words there, together connect and form the mubtada, and available in the bookstores would be the predicate, and the is would distinguish between the two. In Arabic, there wouldn't be an is. Okay, so this is like the biggest mistake people make, and I know because I've taught like dozens of groups of students, like thousands of students, and they read to me. Okay, which is something that you'll get an opportunity to do, inshallah, from next week, from the 3rd week of class. So when they're reading to me, even having covered sufficient amount of grammar, I see this mistake more so than any other mistake, is that they drop the is in the wrong place. Okay, so they fail to understand the phrase level relationships. So here's how this problem is solved. The lack of is issue is by going from right to left. Is by going from right to left, because Arabic is written from right to left, and looking between each two words, each pair of words, for one of those sanctioned phrase level relationships, 2 of which have been given to you in the previous video, and the rest will be given to you over the course of the next 7-8 weeks. So once you know them all, then you look for them, and when you see wherever they all exhaust and wherever they all end, that's where you drop the is, and that's where the predicate begins. And I'm going to give you a very clear example of this on the upcoming slide. Okay, but first of all, phrase level relationships, 2 of them were given to you in the previous session, and we're just reminding you of those 2 here. The possessive one is where you have the 2 nouns arranged in this particular way, where the first noun is empty of al and tanween, and the second noun has the jar, kasras at the end of it. Okay, in the descriptive phrase, they're both empty of al, and they both have the same ending, and not only that, but they have the same gender and they have the same plurality, tall boy. Okay, so here's the example of dropping the is in the correct place, where the phrase is exhaust. Okay, the sentence is Kitabu Zaydin Jadidun. Translation is Zayd's book is new. Okay, so you see the word kitab and the word Zayd do have a relationship, because number one, the word kitab does not have the al and it doesn't have the tanween, and Zayd is in jar, so it has all of the components of the possessive phrase that were taught you in the previous video. So those 2 together would connect. Now Jadid, is it related to Zayd in the sense that it's matching Zayd? So are we talking about a new Zayd? Obviously we're not, right? So there, Zayd's definite, whereas Jadid is indefinite, and Zayd has a different ending, Jadid has a different ending. So there's no, and not only that, but the rest of the 12 are also not applicable. Like, you'd have to know them all in order to be able to do this properly. But just assuming that none of the phrases are applying, so that's where we drop the is. So this is what we do. We take those 2 words, kitab and Zayd, and label them as the mubtada. And we take the one word on its own, Jadid, and label that as the khabar. So that's the top layer division, 2 and 1. You see? And then within the mubtada we have the word kitab, and we have the word Zayd, and they're connected together in a phrase level relationship. You see that? So that's mudaf, and Zayd is mudaf ilayh, and that's your first example of parsing. And as we move forward, inshallah, you'll come to a stage where whatever sentence is thrown at you, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if the sentence is 17 words long. You will be able to do what we just did right now, effortlessly. Okay, and let me tell you, you can be reading 2, 3, 4 texts in grammar and still not be able to do this. You can be studying Arabic for multiple years at the university level and still not be able to do this. What we do is we have our 132-page grammar text. But prior to that, the student already knows how to do this 90% of the time. They'll already be fully comfortable with this parsing method, where they can take any sentence, regardless of the length of the sentence, and be able to easily, effortlessly break it down into its major portions. Okay. In the case of the verbal sentence, we'll have a fi'l, a fa'il, and we'll have multiple adverbs. So that's how verbal sentences are dealt with. In the case of a nominal sentence, the top layer division will be 2. The question is from where to where. Okay. So you draw the green boxes, and you'd know how many of the words would be in box A and how many of the words would be in box B, and then you'd further zoom in and you'd keep doing it until each word is in its own box. So this is the box method. Inshallah, it's something that we do consistently, and we start doing it from as early as the 3rd week of class. Actually, I've already done it for you on this video, and you'll notice that in the Stories of the Prophets book, every session okay, I will pull out the tablet and the pen, okay, because we're not going to be doing PowerPoint anymore. It's going to be a scanned image of the book, and inshallah I'll change the color of the marker and I'll do it for you again and again, and I'll carefully choose the sentences to do it with. I won't do it with every sentence, because doing it with every sentence presupposes that we've taught all of grammar, and clearly that's not the case.